Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of Ringside Seats, the exclusive podcast on wrestling presented by Buzz Continuum. And what greater time to start this than on the road to WrestleMania. And the first event that is coming up is Elimination Chamber, which is taking place tomorrow. And to discuss that as well as everything that has happened in the world of wrestling in the past week, we have with us Erahon and Absolute Babbar. Hi guys, thank you for being with us today.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
Right, so talking about what happened in wrestling last week, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the amazing Gauntlet match that took place on Raw with Rollins winning the first two matches. It was completely unexpected and nobody saw that coming, especially against John Cena and Roman Reigns. But eventually, they gave a bit pop to Braun Strowman and he got over The Miz and the Mr. Rush. But, talking about that Gauntlet match, what did you guys think of that match? Erahon, if you could start with that.
Thanks, man. So, the Gauntlet was something which was very unexpected. I don't think people usually expect a main event match, that to a main event which spanned over 1.5 hours to start off a Raw. I think that's the first time it's been done in the past 25 years, and that is something which has garnered the most attention. I think the match, once I think the first two falls were done, was quite predictable. We eventually knew Braun would get that final pinfall, but it was one of the most enjoyable and long matches we've seen in Raw history, and definitely Rollins was the standard performer.
Right, and handing that achievement to Rollins means the WWE does have some sort of way forward or some sort of vision for his push. AB, what do you think about that?
I think it was an amazing match. I mean, the way they actually built up the whole match and story that they wanted to showcase in this match was that Seth Rollins as that one guy who basically keeps everything in the ring, who actually puts everything. He is one of the most hardworking guys. And this actually, it actually shows the kind of faith that WWE and Triple H in Seth Rollins. The performance that Seth Rollins gave, that was exceptional, and it actually showed that he is one of the best guys that they have in terms of in-ring skills. Also, the way he actually, won the whole thing. Roman Reigns, the first person that he defeated, then John Cena back to back. It actually, you're right, Silent Rollins actually shows the kind of faith that WWE and definitely Triple H has in Seth Rollins. And he is going to be one of the biggest stars of 2018.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And if you think about it, now they have two guys after Chris Jericho, I think, who can boast about the fact that they've beaten two of the top guys in the business on the same night back to back. But, talking about Raw, we talk about another feud which we would have expected to be much, much more over than it actually is right now. But this feud between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, I mean, guys, where is this going? I mean, AB, if you could give us your thoughts on this, where do you think this is going?
This has been a disaster, honestly. I mean, look at it. Last year, Bray Wyatt won the Elimination Chamber, won the title as well, and he was actually over. But right now, when you look at it since WrestleMania with that Randy Orton feud and with Finn Balor or whatever, it's just not going anywhere for Bray Wyatt for sure. When he speaks, I don't think anyone is listening. He just basically comes here, babbles a few things, then loses a match. They actually have dropped the ball with Matt Hardy, broken match for sure.
Right, and Erahon, this does look, AB has a point, it does look like a disappointing feud. We've talked about how Raw really lacks a top face tag team and with Cesaro and Sheamus being the tag team champions, which is primarily a heel tag. What do you think about, possibly putting Bray and Matt into a tag team in the near future to feud with The Bar?
I think, that's the only one way we can actually salvage this disaster, like we said. So the sad thing was everyone was clamoring for this to happen. The moment Matt came into WWE, people wanted okay, we need now Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy. And now when it's finally happened, the booking has been disastrous. So I think the only way to really save it is, I think we saw, a few glimpses of it in the Fatal 4-Way and even in the Rumble when we saw them teaming up. And I think them getting together might be the best thing which could happen for them at this time. And then Jeff Hardy could come back, hale and hearty and insert himself, and then they could probably split again. I think that's the best way forward for them.
Right. Okay, guys. So, when you talk about titles that are being defended, we also have the first ever women's Elimination Chamber match that is taking place, and that was the main event in terms of the final match at Raw this week. And we saw a very confusing storyline between Alexa and Mickey, who initially was where we saw Alexa was trying to be friends with, but then she was tagged with Absolution. So, what do you guys think of that? If AB, if you could give your 2 cents on that.
I think it's going to be a decent match. I think Alexa is going to be the star of it. It's going to be very disappointing if she doesn't win. I mean, she doesn't get a WrestleMania moment with the title. I think she had that the last time also, but she's been carrying it for a long time. I think she should continue doing that. The whole Mickey and the partnership that they've been forming, it's just to get that thing going on with the Absolution part, but I don't think it's anything beyond that.
Right, absolutely. And Aaron, I would like to ask you, what are your views on Absolution, on Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, now that they do not have Paige with them to lead them in the ring? What are your views on them? How do you think they've developed so far?
They're both very new. I think the Tough Enough storyline started with Paige training them from the Tough Enough days, and now that Paige can't support them, it's obviously difficult for them. I do think they need a third member who will actually wrestle from time to time. But I guess they're only going to be used for the early pinfalls, or they're going to tag team up on people like, Sasha Banks and Bayley. I think Sasha Banks and Bayley feud is also coming WrestleMania. There's going to be something happens in the chamber which will compound that and result in a one-on-one which people have been waiting for since TakeOver.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like an interesting Elimination Chamber, but let us divulge a bit to, talk about the second show. Let's talk about SmackDown. What's happening with SmackDown? SmackDown was awesome in 2016, lost a lot of its shine in 2017. What's happening with SmackDown? AB, what do you think of this entire KO Sami angle? They're friends, they're not friends, they're friends. Again, what's going on there?
I hope they're continuing with this storyline. I think it's too early to, have a WrestleMania feud between these two guys, and I'm assuming that's where they're going ahead with. There's a lot that these guys can do, considering they do any which way don't really have anything else to do on, on SmackDown. Maybe, you never know, maybe they will not do that thing and they're going to be still together, and hopefully when the draft comes, they both get, draft to Raw and, they get to do something else. But again, and Shane McMahon, I think it's basically ruining every segment that he's in with his straight face, and he's always sweating because he's not able to really.
Right. So, when we're looking at Sami and KO being, so as you say, they might not split up and that storyline then goes off elsewhere. You think, around that probably, they'll be inserted into the tag scene? Because right now the tag scene is really hot with the New Day and, Gable and Benjamin, as well as the Bludgeon Brothers. You think KO and Sami have a scene there if they don't feud at WrestleMania?
I think, there could be a multi-man match and KO and Sami could steal something if they don't really get a match. I believe they should be involved in a higher profile match. Maybe them with Shane and Daniel Bryan could be something which they might be on the cards. But if they're not really getting a match, and I don't think anyone should interfere with the AJ and Nakamura match at all, that should be one-on-one. So that would be their best way forward, because they need to stay in that main event scene. They really shouldn't go out from that, because they're the best part of SmackDown now.
Right. Like you're saying, I mean, when you're talking about the tag team division right now on SmackDown, Bludgeon Brothers are definitely going to have, be feuding with Usos at WrestleMania. So again, if this happens, like you're saying, and it's going to be a big thing if that happens, like them in a tag team, it will be post WrestleMania, and that too way later, and they might be, get defeated by.
So AB, what you're saying is you predict a Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos straight 2-on-2 tag match for WrestleMania. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's where it's going, and I think the way they are building up the storyline, it's really, really good.
It does look like that too. I do agree. It does look like that for now.
They don't even look. I mean, Bludgeon Brothers are not even looking at them. It seems like they know that it's in their destiny to one day win the tag team titles. So they don't even care about anyone else. And the way Usos have been built up by WWE, they are the best tag team that is there right now. So I think that
I agree with you. I agree, and I think only time will tell if this happens at WrestleMania or not. But talking about WrestleMania and on the road to WrestleMania, we have Fastlane, which is the SmackDown pay-per-view coming up next month. What a main event for Fastlane. You have five of I feel the top guys on SmackDown battling it out. And what a push for Corbin and Ziggler. I mean, last week, no one expected both of them to be inserted into this match, but they've both been given good pushes and both of them have taken it with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, what a performance by Ziggler last week on the main event, and a performance by Corbin as well. He stepped up his game. So what do you think about that, AB?
I've never been high on Corbin, to be very honest, but I think that the way they're building up his character and, giving him some, motivation of sorts, I think he's quite interesting in the last few weeks. He's not going to be winning anything for sure at this moment because there are people, you can see the storylines, how they're progressing, but it's kind of interesting how it's going right now. Ziggler, I think it's too late, but I have been a Ziggler fan and still am, and I look forward how he's going to be playing a really important role and what kind of role he will be getting with WrestleMania right around the corner.
Right. So, talking, since these guys have got a push into the main event scene, what do you think is happening with the US title scene? We've got Randy who is feuding with Bobby Roode and Jinder Mahal. What do you think of that?
After Ziggler dropped, he sort of just walked away and left the title. I think Roode picked it up where I think everyone expected it, so that was kind of predictable with the tournament too. But now I think there needs to be some sort of rejuvenation in the scene. You have talent like even Ty Dillinger waiting. There could be a lot more done. Randy Orton is, I think, just playing a placeholder for the time being. It'll be interesting to see if they really make him the champion. But I think that is a scene which is not very clear at this point, but it'll be good to see what they really do at WrestleMania. It's probably a multi-man match, because I don't see, otherwise, probably the best thing anyone would think right now is push Rusev to that scene again.
Yes, which was my next question to you guys. Where is Rusev's push and when is that coming? I mean, that guy I think he's the second most over guy on the entire SmackDown roster. So, AB, what do you think? When do you think Rusev will get his due?
I don't think that is going to happen. I really want that. And I'm a big fan of Rusev, but then he actually is more like Zack Ryder right now, a goofy face, and I don't think that Vince McMahon would like to that kind of a character. Yeah, think about it. He's basically, all his merchandise is basically doing pretty good. His calendars, I think, sold like crazy, but then I don't think that they actually see him more than that.
Okay, Aaron, do you think, otherwise, do you think he will get a push, or you think a push is coming up for him in the future?
If they had the push, they could have pushed the tag titles. They were getting a lot of reaction, him and Aiden English. They should have pushed it that way and given them, people a shock where Rusev and English came away with the titles, even for a short period. But unless it's going to happen at WrestleMania for the US title, I don't really see much more for Rusev at this point.
And and it's sad because you have so many people on the roster who deserve a push, who are already over with the crowd, with the audiences, but they're not getting that push. We've been hearing news, we've been hearing, rumors about WWE merging both their pay-per-views after WrestleMania. What that would then do is give even less of a platform for a lot of these guys who are currently getting a push. Probably you'll see a Ziggler or a Corbin not getting the push that they're getting right now. What are your views on that? AB, if you could.
I think, but it's going to be interesting for the audience. For this WWE superstars, I think, if WWE is smart enough, these shows can play a really important role here. Think about it. Right now, they just basically have those very lame matches that happen, apart from one match, the New Day Usos match, I suppose.
Right. I don't think of this concept. Do you think it's a good, wise move in terms of giving talent a space to perform?
I think it's now how they will use the weekly shows as well. So will they let the undercard and the midcard perform more on the weekly shows? Or are they going to just let the upper midcarders and main event just use up everything?
Right. And talking about good matches, boy, is 205 giving us good matches this time around. With this entire change that's taken place with Drake Maverick or Rockstar Spud being brought in and Triple H, that's what the rumors are behind the scenes, taking over the entire booking. What are your views, man? I mean, we've got amazing matches coming out of 205 Live. We've seen some really good matches last week, this week, the week before that. So shed some light on that. It's not been popular with the audiences before. Do you think putting out pure matches like they're doing now, will that help the show get over with audiences, Erhan?
This current tournament will definitely get over. I think it will be once the tournament's over, post WrestleMania, how are they going to book 205 Live? I think the two-match format currently, while the tournament is on, it was a secret of success for the Cruiserweight Classic as well, where they kept less shows and just pure wrestling. But post that, you need to have a weekly running show with some storylines. Right now, they don't really need the storylines. So how they book it afterwards, how they really use their talent, they've got a really talented roster. That will be the main secret to how 205 actually succeeds going ahead.
Right. And AB, what do you think about the matches that happened this week? We saw a very different news side of Mustafa Ali and Gentleman Jack.
No, I agree with Rohan. He's absolutely right. They actually have gone back to the format of, focusing on pure wrestling and with Triple H over the show.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point to make. Getting talent in from NXT and from the UK stable of guys as well. That's a very interesting touch that has brought a lot of positivity to the show. So let's see where that takes them. Hoping for the best, and we hope for a great match at WrestleMania for the Cruiserweight title. Talking about NXT, we've had another rematch between Johnny Gargano and the champion Andrade Cien Almas, and I think it was expected the end result of the match would be, but now that Johnny Gargano is off the NXT roster, do you guys think his feud with Tommaso Ciampa will continue in one of the main shows, or do you think they both will be inserted into 205 Live? AB?
I would just say this, Johnny Gargano is the next Daniel Bryan for sure. And Andrade is going to be one of the biggest main event stars.
On the main rosters?
On the main roster.
That's an interesting thought.
They need someone to represent the Latin community, and I think he's going to do a fantabulous job with that. In terms of the feud that Gargano and his counterpart might have, I think it's going to be interesting. Let's see how it goes.
Erhan, you think Tommaso is still injured? Do you think he's going to be moved out of NXT right now as well?
No, I do think he's injured. I don't think either of them are going to go to NXT. So,
talking about tag teams, we've got the Dusty Classic which has been announced. Interesting lineup. You've got some of the upcoming tag teams from NXT. With Sanity and Undisputed Era and Authors of Pain taking the primary slots for qualifying for the titles, the other tag teams have somehow been put in the background. They haven't got much of a platform to perform up front. Do you think the Classic will help them, give them a platform to shine? The Street Profits, Sabatelli and Moss, and the returning TM61. So, Aaron, what do you think about that?
The Dusty Classic has been amazing in the past few years. It's one of the best things for, upcoming tag teams, and TM61 are back and healthy. AOP have overstayed their welcome on the NXT roster. I feel they should have been brought up to Raw, considering the lack of, legit tag teams we have there currently. But it's going to be interesting to see. And they usually also have a few surprising tag teams where they put in one or two single stars together and they seem to gel. So it'll be really interesting.
The ladder is out. The tournament bracket is out. So they've got Street Profits, they've got Sanity. You have Heavy Machinery. You have Authors of Pain, TM61. Who do you guys think? Let's go out on a limb and call for a winner here. Let's take a call. I think TM61 are going to go out all the way. They are the next guys who are going to win the titles, and I feel they are going to win the tournament all throughout. What do you guys think is going to happen? Erhan, who do you think will win?
TM61, because the winner of the Classic gets a tag team title shot at NXT New Orleans, and it makes sense for Sanity to move up afterwards. So they will definitely drop it to a good tag team, and TM61 look the most likely.
Street Profits for me.
Right, awesome guys. And talking about pay-per-views, we have Elimination Chamber coming up tomorrow. So let's end this podcast today with our predictions for Elimination Chamber. Guys, who do you think will win let's go with the women's Elimination Chamber first. AB, you've said you want Alexa to win, so
Alexa is going to be retaining, yeah.
Alright, and Erhan, who's your pick for the chamber?
My pick is Alexa, although I was thinking of an angle where they could somehow have Nia Jax inserted by her attacking Mickie James and getting in, and turning on Alexa right at the end of the match and becoming champion and going into Mania, and then Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax.
Interesting. And talking about Nia Jax and Asuka, we do have Asuka versus Nia Jax at the chamber with the stipulation that if Jax wins, she is inserted into Mania. So, Erhan, you're calling Nia to win that match, right?
No, I'm actually calling her to lose it by disqualification, but, showcasing some dominance over Asuka, and eventually then she attacking Mickey and getting into the chamber and actually winning. I mean, it's a very long shot, but I'd like to see some surprise in the chamber. I really don't want to. It's very predictable that Asuka will win here and then Alexa will win in the chamber.
Interesting. And I think, guys, I'll stick with Alexa as well. That's a very safe bet, and it will probably end up being Alexa and Asuka and Nia Jax. And I feel Nia might not win up front or clean win. It will be a disqualification, probably victory for Nia, helping her get into the main event match at Mania, as well as retaining Asuka's streak. So guys, let's end the podcast with our final predictions for the men's Elimination Chamber. I would want to go with Seth Rollins, but I think we all know it will be Roman Reigns. Is it any different for you guys, Erhan?
No, I really think it is going to be Reigns. I'd like to see Seth Rollins somehow insert himself, considering he got a pinfall victory over Reigns. He might insert him somehow, try and insert himself in the final and make it a triple threat at Mania. That's the way I wanted to go.
Maybe?
I think Seth and Reigns are going to be the final two people, and Roman Reigns will win, sadly, because again, I think this whole experiment needs to end. So he'll have his big coronation at WrestleMania, winning against Brock Lesnar, the Beast, and he's going to be the champion, and then we can have a feud with Seth Rollins later, maybe.
Right. Thank you guys so much for sharing your views and your predictions with us today. Thank you so much to the listeners who stayed with us throughout this podcast, and we'll be back again next week to talk about the fallout from Elimination Chamber, what happens on Raw, SmackDown 205, NXT, as well as talking a bit more about where we see our superstars being at WrestleMania. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a nice day.
Do also take out time to like this podcast as well as subscribe to our channel to get more info on the world of wrestling every week at Ringside Seats.